Types of data. Mastery measures and general outcome measures applied to real data in schools. So let's start real big picture. Think of assessments in your world. You likely already know that assessments fall on a continuum. On the left, we have summative assessments, or assessments of learning, so after instruction. And to the right, formative assessment, or assessment for learning, so before and during instruction to inform instruction, and others that kind of fall somewhere in the middle. The purpose of assessment drives when and how often the assessment occurs. Summative assessments happening less frequently, and formative assessments happening more frequently. Assessments also fit with the stages of learning. Here in the pink, we go from the right, not knowing something, to acquiring the skill, practicing it and building fluency and automaticity and accuracy. Fluency then commits it to long-term memory and mastery into being able to apply the skill even in a new situation or new problem type. So from left to right in the pink, from right to left in the pink, we move from not having the skill to being someone who can use it deeply and in an applied way. Follow me so far? Now let's tie the specific buckets of assessments you likely use in your school and place them where they best fit on this continuum. RICAS happens annually because, like all accountability assessments, it's designed primarily to be summative, an assessment of learning after instruction, when all those other assessments to the right informed our instructional practices day to day to get students to this point. RICAS asks students to apply the skills we've taught them to a novel assessment, so it is more application in nature. In our health metaphor, this would be like a 5K or a half marathon that you made as your ultimate goal in your weight loss, healthy eating, exercising journey. You prepped for months, and now it's go time. Next, we have common general education assessments, and you may use a variety of names for them: common assessments, interim assessments, proficiency-based assessments, or tasks. They relate to RICAS in that they too are assessing grade level standards, but they happen more frequently than once a year and often in smaller chunks or units because of our instructional scope and sequence that's working towards mastery and proficiency. These assessments are typically untimed because a student can be proficient but take longer to complete that assessment. They're proficient nonetheless. These are also Criterion referenced assessments. We're looking for specific criteria defined based on the standards. These assessments are summative, assessments of learning after instruction, but they can also be formative if you use the data to inform what you do with your students moving forward. But because often there's a grade or a rubric score associated with them, they cannot be considered entirely formative. Often these result in a percent test score or a rubric proficiency level. In our health metaphor, with RICAS as the 5K or half marathon, this might be your Fitbit or Apple Watch training, showing your running distance, speed, measuring how you are doing now on those criteria to see if you're getting more and more proficient. Screening, also say 3 times a year, is entirely formative. No grade is given based on how a student does on the benchmark. Screening and progress monitoring tools are often timed. Think letter sound fluency and phoneme segmentation fluency, or math computation fluency in DIBELS and AIMSweb. Or they can be computer adaptive, like STAR. And they align with critical foundational skills that, like your weight, is a global indicator of overall health or learning. Rather than being based on criteria or standards, like RICAS and general education assessments, screening and progress monitoring are what we call norm referenced. Scores are based on performance relative to a norm when the assessment is administered in a standardized manner, to rank where this student's skill is as compared to other similar peers in the population. Again, like weight and height on a child's chart. There's a large range of what we considered the norm, and we can monitor both where he or she is now as well as the trend compared year to year prior. Because of the norming aspect of screening and progress monitoring, these scores are often reported in percentiles, where the student falls in relation to others to inform next steps. My son had a growth spurt and went from average to slightly underweight. I plan to monitor at the next visit, but in the meantime, he certainly can have a second bowl of ice cream. Finally, progress monitoring is intended to be entirely formative. Therefore, it's frequent and used regularly to guide instruction. It is typically aligned to the screening tool, so if your school uses DIBELS, AIMSWeb, or STAR, typically a specific probe or part of that tool will be used for your progress monitoring. Because it is formative, it will never be graded. It will have a goal set based on a norm. For example, a student who screened at the 15th percentile in reading fluency might have an oral reading fluency goal of meeting the benchmark, say 35th percentile. And as we intervene, when he or she reaches that goal of meeting benchmark on oral reading fluency, he or she will exit intervention. In our metaphor, this is like when we track our weight for our goals. Each time I stepped on that scale, if I lost weight in line with my goal, I know I'm on track. But if I didn't, I only know that what I'm doing isn't working. I might not know why. I would need to use other data to drill deeper.